So it's being now recorded. So you can start your session now. Yeah, Vishnu. All the best.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. 1 second. Let me quickly share my screen. Please confirm me once you're able to see my screen. So
yeah, I can see the screen.
basically the requirement is something like this. We need to develop an iFlow which is realistic in the current business integration scenarios, where and the mandatory things what needs to be utilized in the iFlow has been recorded over here. We need to use minimum of at least 3 adapters to in the complete design of the iFlow. It can be any of the adapter in the standard existing CPI adapters, and we need to use multiple pilot functions as well based on the requirement, and the Groovy scripting, an example Groovy scripting, and the message logging method over here. So basically on this particular requirements, I have taken a real-time scenario, a Swiggy as an example for my implementation, and this is the document what I have prepared for the implementation. So overview is something like customer places an order on a web service application where CPI receives the data in a JSON format, and once CPI receives the JSON format data, it will be converted into an XML format, and then there is a small script included in the flow just to validate the incoming mandatory fields. I mean, incoming standard fields from the incoming payload, and then add some message logging into that payload, like naming convention, and if there is any kind of missing fields, throw an exception, and if that is the case, what are the standard outputs or the things that has to be triggered as a response message to the requester, or it can be any other supportive team. So this is the standard design. I have just pasted as a snippet over here. I will show you and explain you the end-to-end implementation once I log into the BTP account. So let me quickly look into this. So this is a CPI tenant, free tenant. Basically, I have designed this particular scenario in 2 different ways. So I'll show both of them. You can review either of them and then let me know what and all changes or the improvements that can be performed. So initially, I have used an HTTP adapter to establish a connectivity between CPI and a sender system. And the connection type is something like this: order creation, authorization is user role. User role is ESB messaging.send.
Could you just minimize it? Let's quickly look at the iFlow. Okay, can you just minimize it? So just okay. So you're receiving a JSON message. Can you explain me the iFlow completely end to end? What are the different steps here?
Sure. So whenever a customer submits an order, CPI will receive a message in a JSON format, and once the message is received, JSON format would be converted into an XML format, and then this particular Groovy scripts validates the incoming payload whether it has certain mandatory fields or not in there. Once the validation is completed, we are passing the same payload into the content modifier just to store the payload over here, and we have designed a router as well. I mean to say that there are 2 different types of order types where the incoming payload itself brings the data into that order type field. Based on that order type field, we have segregated, we are redirecting the order into 2 different paths. So one would be, for an example, if the order ID is Instamart, the message will be routed to the second routing condition. If the order ID is referring as a food delivery, then the routing condition, the first routing condition will be opted. If none of these are present, or if there is any kind of issues observed during this Groovy script validation, then automatically the iFlow would be stopped. I mean to say the process would be stopped, and the exception would be called over here directly. And in the exception, I have designed in such a way that if there is any kind of failure occurs, a message would be triggered to the certain people or support people to the respective mail IDs with the relevant content. I mean to say, like, in some cases, there might be some sort of missing characters or missing incoming notes or something like that, which exactly points out what exactly is missing over there.
Nice.
And
Okay.
if it is a successful case, it performs a message mapping, and then after completing the message mapping, here what the thing is, I don't have an real-time SAP S4 HANA access. That is the reason I have used an FTP server just to keep the order copy in a A11 directory, assuming that it keeps an order copy. And I have created another receiver which is connected via AMQP, which would be connected to a topic on event mesh, and there are certain subscribers who would be assigned to that event mesh who can review this order and accept the order for delivery.
Very good. And what
So
is the reason
now,
for the parallel multicast there?
parallel multicast, just to split, make sure that I mean to say, like, order copy. Initially, how I designed is like after message clears this particular content modifier, na, once the condition gets passed, I mean once it gets routed, I would be calling S4 HANA for a creation of an order over there on S4 HANA. Once a order ID is received, then I thought of keeping a copy of an order and order information in a A11 directory, and the other branch would help me to pass that particular order into a event mesh for the delivery partners to accept or reject the order, to pick up the order. Just by keeping Swiggy in mind, I thought I have just created this particular overview. However, there are certain things where I didn't have the real-time scenario, real-time credentials to maintain. That is the reason I have used something alternatives over here just for the presentation way.
If you scroll up a bit, I want to just to see can you scroll up a bit? Yes, here. So so you're storing the Instamart information and the food delivery information orders to the FTP servers. Okay, and AMQP is the okay. So basically, it is HTTPS file and AMQP interface. Okay, can you scroll down a bit, please, in the exception handling? Okay, here also you're using the mail adapter. So basically, you used 4 mail adapters. Okay, that is good.
Right.
Okay, so show me the configuration. Okay, for example, starting from the beginning, what have you done in HTTPS and so on? Start from there.
Sure. In the HTTPS configuration, we would be just giving an address, which the endpoint of the address, where I have created as an order creation. And once everything is deployed, URL would be generated by CPI, which I can share with the respective members to submit an order. And the user role would be a standard user role, that is nothing but ESB messaging.send, which will be assigned in the SAP BTP cockpit under the users. And I have unchecked the CSRF protected, because initially, whenever this particular thing was checked in, I was receiving HTTP 404 error. 400 error, sorry. So once I removed this, once I unchecked this property, I was able to call the services.
Okay.
And then coming to JSON to XML converter here, in the processing tab, I have checked the namespacing, because in real-time scenario, they expect us to tag the namespaces for the incoming payload once after the conversion is completed. So and the fields in the input JSON format would be separated by a colon format in the colons.
Okay, very good. Okay.
And then there is a small script written over here under Groovy script, which validates the incoming payload for the mandatory field.
Can you quickly, for example, can you show me the sample JSON message for the step number 1? What would be the JSON message?
Yeah, sure. So this would be the sample JSON message format.
Very good. Okay, orders already. Okay, perfect. Okay, go ahead now. So show me the Groovy scripting now.
Yeah, sure. Groovy scripting. So here is the script. Basically, it validates the incoming payload and identifies whether if there is any kind of missing fields or there. If there are any certain missing fields, then it will call the exception subprocess. if there are no missing fields, if the payload has all the relevant required fields in it, then it will create a name. It will set. I mean to say, like, it will generate a naming convention. It will set the properties dynamically with the help of the which logs the message with the date and time and the name of the order type as a naming convention of the file, which I will show you later on, because I have utilized that particular naming convention while placing the file into an A11 directory of the FTP server.
That's good. So basically line number 12, 13, 14, you are checking if the value is existing.
Right, yes, in the incoming payload, whether these particular fields are existing or not.
Okay, very good. Okay, that is good. And then from the line number 16, you're looping through the items. Then if the item size is 0, basically you're looking at the size of the items, if there's anything ordered. Then if it is available, then you're looping through every item, then getting the name and quantity. Okay,
because
then
sometimes they might include multiple items in the order, right? For example, maybe biscuits or something like that. That is the reason I have included this iteration process as well.
Very good.
Just to make sure that all the orders has been read by the code.
Can you explain me what is happening from the line number 26?
From line number 26, basically, if this particular, it is a condition where if the missing field, if not missing fields is empty, then define error message. Okay, right. Here in this case, if there is any kind of missing fields are observed in the incoming payload, then what exactly it does is like, it is calling, it is defining an error message over here, state, and where the input. What do they say? Sorry, I am really sorry for this thing. Error message is equals to missing mandatory field, and those particular mandatory fields are being retrieved from the above line items.
Very good. Okay.
And then once the message has been created, then it is setting the header. The message itself is setting the header with the missing field message, the whatever message we have generated over here, and the error message. And then it is similarly, for example, if the order ID is missed, the order ID is not available or something like that, we are just updating we are just trying to give a standard format how exactly an output message has to be shown on the requester side with the help of the incoming periods.
Very good. And are you comfortable now with Groovy scripting, Nishay? I mean, are you able to understand the code and write your own logic in the Groovy scripting with confidence?
I mean to say, like, Prasad, to certain level, I'm able to read the code and understand the functionality, but when it comes to writing the code, I'm not so confident. But however, with the help of the available GPT tools now, I can give the prompt for the GPT as per my requirement to extract the code. And once it develops the code and provides me the code, I can go through the code to understand the functionality and understand whether it is meeting my requirements or not.
That's good. That's a good start, Nisha. Okay, that's how it goes. Okay, so you will get the foundation first. Then you use these tools to build your logic, and then modify bits and there. Then you can build it. That's good. So let's go back to the iFlow now. Good job, Nisha. Very well done here. If you go back to the iFlow, please. Let's go to the next step. Okay.
Okay.
So after
here,
what happens?
The content modifier. Here in the content modifier, I have included this to store the payload, and I wanted to define a property or set a property over here which would be utilized in the routing condition later on. If you specifically look at this one, I have created a thing called as type, and the value into that particular type has been passed by an XPath. And it reads from the incoming payload, and the structure of the payload would be looking something like this: order type, which indicates whether it has to be directed to an Instamart or the food delivery point.
Okay.
As we are aware, if we utilize the XPath as a source type, then the data type has to be included. And the other data field what I have created is nothing but message payload, just to store the incoming payload, and this will be stored only inside the iFlow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then routing condition. Here in the routing condition, we have three conditions. The first one would be Instamart, second would be the food delivery, and the third one would be the error one. So the condition expression over here, as I informed earlier, I have created a exchange property in the content modifier called as type with the name of type, and I am utilizing the same property over here. If the property is equals to Instamart, then direct to this one. Choose this route. If the type is equals to food delivery, then it will choose the second route. If either of these particular things fails, then it will by default it will take a error route where exceptions of process would be called.
Okay, and what is the default route here, Nitzik? Can you explain me what is the default route here?
So if none of these particular both the routing conditions fail, then the default route would be opted by the IFO directly.
And what if you don't select a default route?
The routing condition will fail. It will throw an exception for us, and it will not allow to deploy the IFO.
Very good. Very good. Go ahead. Next step.
And then once the routing condition is finished, I have implemented a message mapping, which will help me to map according to the S4 HANA data format. Here in this case, just for a reference or review thing.
Okay.
So I have utilized everything in one-to-one mapping way, and even the occurrence. Few of them are mandatory fields. That is the reason we have used one-to-one occurrence, and few might be repetitive. That is the reason we have used 0 to unbounded. The one unbounded is nothing but multiple times. It can occur in multiple times.
Good. Very good.
And then once the mapping is passed, again a content modifier just to throw the message. What kind of whether if it has successfully processed, then this is the message that would have been popped up with the on the requester screen. And here is a small thing which I missed, which I noticed very in the later part. I mean to say, instead of placing the XML file, the original XML file, it is placing this particular statement itself as a copy in the JMS, AMQP and FTP servers, which can in the real-time scenarios, it is not an issue because we will be having a S4 HANA system over there. I can retrieve the original order ID and I can just give the order ID as a reference one, or store the order ID in a JMS queue or in a data store table of the CPI for the further verification or validation purposes. But here, just for sake of completing this one, I have utilized it, and a parallel multicast has been used to just to keep a copy of a file in a FTP server for a future reference, and a copy of a file would be placed in AMQP queues, AMQP, which would be connected to a topic in the advanced event mesh, and later on, the further process can be explained in the later part.
Very good. Okay.
And then if there is any kind of
can you show me the configuration of parallel multicast? What have you done? Is there anything to do there?
No, there are no.
Okay. Okay. And what about the AMQP adapter? Can you show me the adapter?
Sure. So here, while configuring the AMQP adapter, we need to make sure that the message protocol is set to AMQP 1.0.
So in this, for example, can we use this adapter for calling AMQP version 9.0.9.0?
This particular adapter, no, I think so. I'm not sure on that thing. I don't think so.
So this AMQP adapter only supports protocol 1.0. Okay, so you have to use the AMQP software that supports AMQP protocol 1.0. So it will not support 0.9.0. Okay. So with the connections details, please.
So in the connections,
so we have the server, we have the credentials. Okay. And what about the processing?
In the processing tab, I have opted the destination type as queue as of now, because the topic where I have not specifically created any kind of topic on the event mesh to connect or call that particular topic over there. So I have called it as a destination type that I opted for a queue1 and have given the name of the queue as output.
Okay, well done. Okay, and show me the FTP adapter configuration, please.
FTP adapter. Okay. FTP, and these are the standard configurations. And when it comes to the target configuration, we should be giving the directory I have already created this directory in the server, FTP server, in this particular FTP server, and the dynamic. I am utilizing the property which I have created in the content modifier earlier. I am using the same over here to keep the name in create the file name, and these are the FTP credentials, and these are the connection properties.
Very good. Well done. Okay. And what about processing? What happens with processing?
Processing, and sometimes what happens, we have various options like override, delete, or store it in a temporary format or something like that. But here in this specific case, I have utilized override. Based on the requirement, we can use the handling of the files. And if you want to sorry, did I miss anything?
No, very good. So let's go to the exception handling. Okay, very good.
So
let's go to the exception handling process.
Exception handling. Here in the content modifier, I have created a expression which will give order validation field details. And apart from it, none of the things has been used over here. And then I directly configured the mail adapter. In the mail adapter, this is a standard one for the Gmail. And I have used the Gmail grids. I have done a round of connectivity test. And then from and to IDs.
Okay.
And the body, whatever I have utilized in the content modifier, the same format would be used as a body of the mail. And in my scenario, I don't have any attachment. That is the reason I have kept it blank over here. If there is any kind of attachment, So and then security, none. I have opted for the none option, security one.
Okay, that's good. Now, can you execute the scenario end to end? Show me what happens.
Sure.
Show me the positive case and the negative case as well.
Sure. Basic authorization, I have already created a user in the BTP cockpit and I'm using the same user credentials. So if I opt this one, let me post this particular message, which is with respect to the Instamart. Before that, let me just click on turn on the trace. And these are the directories what I have created in the FTP server already. As you can see, there is only one file. Let me remove it.
So this is our test FTP server next time?
Yes. This is our server itself.
I'm happy that you guys are using the test servers. This is what my intent to, I wanted to use this for practice. Very good.
So now when I click on this submit a request, so this is something what I receive as a response. Status code 200, replaced successfully. Customer name, order type.
Excellent.
And this is something what we have added in the content modifier over there.
Very good. Excellent. Good job. So now let's remove some fields then.
Instamart, if you see here, the new file has been added.
Oh, okay. And what? So you stored as a CSV files or some XML messages here?
XML messages itself.
Okay.
Initially, there is some issues with the server because I don't have a proper access to this WinSAP or
Okay, that's fine.
that is the reason I was using a third-party application. This is how we will be able to review it.
Okay.
With the help of the order ID reference, we can review the order IDs, order details.
Awesome.
And
Show me the negative now,
negative one, okay.
Or you want to show something else, that's fine.
No. So if I post a negative one,
okay.
You can see here, missing mandatory fields, order type, there is no data, customer name, no data, order ID, no data. If you want to enter something, if you want to try, we can do that one as
well. Okay, so you're checking all the fields. Okay, very good. Okay. And I think you would get an email on this. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, email. I will show you that one as well. Yes, I can show you. I would have received an email with the same notification. So this is the latest one, I think so.
Okay.
0 minutes to 6:35 p.m.
Okay.
I have received a notification.
That's good. Okay.
If you review the message got, it will clearly show that it has got the exceptions of process. As you can see here, it has failed after entering the order validation message, and immediately an exception of process has been triggered.
Okay. Well done. Okay. Nice. Okay, good job, Nish. I mean, I think you covered all the aspects of the request, the project request, and I see that there's a lot of maturity and confidence the way you're explaining, and you know what to explain, you know what to cover, and I'm really happy that you really upskill yourself in SAP CPI.